The shuttle door opened, and Una stepped onto the metal floor of Station Helix 7. She was finally here. The Galactic Military Academy. The place where the best soldiers in the galaxy were made. She looked around, and her heart sank a little. Everyone was so big. A group of Veth warriors walked past her. They were over 2 meters tall, with thick gray skin that looked like stone. Their arms were as wide as her whole body. They moved like mountains that had learned to walk. Behind them came some Quarren. They were thinner, but still tall. They had 4 arms and long necks. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were completely black. They looked at Una and whispered to each other. Una knew what they were saying. She had heard it her whole life. Too small. Too weak. Does not belong here. Una was 152 centimeters tall. That was short for a human. Among aliens, she looked like a child. She weighed only 50 kilograms. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her uniform was the smallest size they made, and it still hung loose on her thin frame. But Una did not turn around. She did not go back to the shuttle. She walked forward with her head held high. She had not come this far to quit now. The registration hall was huge. Hundreds of cadets from dozens of species stood in lines, waiting to receive their assignments. Una found her line and waited. The alien in front of her was a Dravok. He had scales the color of dried blood and teeth that were always visible. His tail moved slowly back and forth. He turned and looked down at Una. His yellow eyes studied her like she was something strange he had found on the bottom of his boot. Human? He asked. Yes, Una said. Small human, he said. It was not a question. Yes, Una said again. The Dravok made a sound that might have been a laugh. Then he turned away. He did not speak to her again. Una got her room assignment and her schedule. Her room was small but clean. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. She put her bag on the bed and sat down. For a moment, she let herself feel tired. For a moment, she let herself feel scared. Then she stood up and went to her first class. The first week was the hardest thing Una had ever done. Every morning started with physical training, running, climbing, lifting, fighting. The exercises were designed for aliens who had 2 hearts or 4 arms or skin that could stop bullets. Una had none of these things. On the first day, she had to run 10 kilometers. She finished last. The Veth cadets had finished 20 minutes before her. On the second day, she had to climb a vertical wall. She fell 3 times before she made it to the top. A Quarren climbed it using all 4 arms in less than a minute. On the third day, she had to lift heavy weights. The standard weight was designed for the average cadet. Una could barely move it. A Dravok next to her lifted it with one hand and laughed. On the 4th day, she had to fight in a combat simulation. Holographic enemies attacked her from all sides. She lasted 47 seconds before she was killed. By the computer. The instructors watched her with doubt in their eyes. The other cadets watched her with pity. Or worse, with amusement. But Una did not quit. Every night, after the other cadets went to sleep, Una stayed awake. She studied the training manuals. She practiced the combat moves in her small room. She ran extra kilometers in the empty corridors when no one was watching. She woke up before everyone else. She trained while they were eating breakfast. She pushed her body until it screamed for rest. And then she pushed it some more, because Una knew something the other cadets did not. No doubt she knew what it meant to truly suffer. Una grew up on Kepler 442b. It was a mining colony on the edge of known space. The gravity there was 1.4 times Earth normal. Every step was harder. Every breath was harder. Every day was a fight just to survive. She started working in the mines when she was 8 years old. She carried rocks and ore alongside workers twice her size. Her hands became rough and strong. Her legs became like iron from walking in heavy gravity every day. When she was 12, there was a tunnel collapse. Her mother and father were both inside. Yuna waited at the entrance for 3 days. She dug with her bare hands until her fingers bled. They never came out. After that, Yuna was alone. There was no one to take care of her. There was no one to help her. She had to survive on her own. When she was 15, a toxic storm hit the colony. The air became poison. People died in the streets. The rescue shuttle was 40 kilometers away. Yuna walked. She wrapped cloth around her face, and she walked through the poison air. She walked for 16 hours. Her lungs burned. Her eyes watered. Her body wanted to fall down and never get up. But she kept walking. When she reached the shuttle, she collapsed. She was unconscious for 2 days. The doctor said it was a miracle she survived. Yuna did not believe in miracles. She believed in will. She believed that if you wanted something badly enough, if you refused to give up no matter what, you could achieve it. That was why she had come to the academy. That was why she would not quit. At the end of the first week, Commander Torvax called her into his office. He was an old Dravik with scars covering half his face. He had been a soldier for over 100 years. "Your scores are the lowest in the academy," he said. His voice was cold. "Yes, sir," Yuna said. "You are too small, too weak. You do not belong here." Yuna looked at him. She did not look away. She did not cry. She did not beg. "With respect, sir," she said, "I have not failed yet. I have not quit. As long as I'm still standing, I belong here." Commander Torvax stared at her for a long moment. His yellow eyes were impossible to read. Then he waved his hand. "Go," he said. "We will see how long you last." Yuna saluted and left his office. She did not know that someone else had been watching her file. Someone who saw something in her that no one else could see. Someone who would change her life forever. Kang Do-hin sat alone in the observation room. The lights were off. Only the glow of the screen lit his face. He was watching training footage from the past week. Cadet after cadet appeared on the screen. Veth warriors crushing combat drones. Quarren cadets climbing walls like spiders. Dravik soldiers tearing through obstacles with their claws. Then the screen showed a small, human girl falling down during a run. She got up. She fell again. She got up again. Do-yoon leaned forward. He watched her fail the wall climb 3 times. He watched her struggle with weights that other cadets lifted easily. He watched her get destroyed in combat simulation after combat simulation. But he also watched something else. He watched her get up. Every single time, the computer showed her statistics. Physical strength, bottom 5%. Combat ability, bottom 3%. Endurance, below average for humans. But there was one number that caught Do-yoon's attention. Time she gave up. 0. Do-yoon was not like other humans. At 193 centimeters tall and over 90 kilograms of muscle, he was big even by human standards. His shoulders were wide enough to block a doorway. His hands were large enough to crush a throat with one squeeze. But that was not why people feared him. People feared him because of what he had done. 10 years ago, Do-hyun had been a cadet at this same academy. He was the only human in his class. The other cadets had seen him as prey. They had pushed him. They had mocked him. They had tried to break him. One night, a group of Veth cadets had cornered him in the training bay. There were 5 of them. They wanted to teach the weak human a lesson. Do-hyun broke 3 of their arms and 2 of their legs. He did it in under 40 seconds. After that, no one bothered him again. He graduated at the top of his class. He broke 17 academy records. He became the first human to earn the rank of Apex. This rank was given only to the deadliest fighters in the galaxy. There were only 12 Apex warriors alive. Do-hyun was the only human among them. His first mission was against a Veth raiding party. 20 warriors. All armed. All experienced killers. Do-hyun walked into their camp alone. He walked out alone. None of the Veth walked out at all. The Galactic Council did not know what to do with him after that. He was too dangerous to let roam free, but he had not broken any laws. He was a hero. So they sent him to the academy. They gave him the title of instructor. They hoped he would stay out of trouble. Do-hyun did not cause trouble. He trained cadets. He taught combat classes. He kept to himself, but he was always watching. Always looking for something. Now, watching the small human girl get up for the 17th time, he thought he might have found it. The next evening, Do-hyun walked into the train bay. It was late. Most cadets were asleep. The lights were dim. The only sound was the hum of machines. And one small human hitting a training dummy. Over and over again. Yuna did not notice him at first. She was too focused. Her fists hit the dummy. Her kicks were weak but precise. Sweat ran down her face. Her breathing was heavy. She had been at this for hours. Do-hyun had checked the logs. "Your form is wrong," he said. Yuna spun around. Her eyes went wide when she saw the insignia on his uniform. The Apex symbol. A black circle with a single white line through it. Everyone knew what that symbol meant. "Sir," she said, standing at attention. Her voice shook a little. "I did not know anyone was here." Do-hyun walked closer. Up close, she was even smaller than she looked on screen. The top of her head barely reached his chest. Her arms were thin. Her body was tired, but her eyes were sharp, alert, ready. "Your form is wrong," he said again. "You are trying to fight like a Veth. You are not a Veth." Yuna blinked. "Sir, you are trying to use strength you do not have." "That is stupid." Yuna's face reddened. Whether from shame or anger, Do-hyun could not tell. "I am trying to pass the training requirements, sir," she said. "The training requirements are designed for average species. Humans are not average." Do-hyun walked to the training dummy. He touched it lightly with one finger. Then he struck with his palm. The dummy flew across the room and crashed into the wall. Yuna stared. "That was not about strength," Do-hyun said. "That was about knowing where to hit. How to hit. When to hit." He turned to face her. "Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We do not have claws or venom or armored skin. But we are still alive. We are still here. Do you know why?" Yuna shook her head. "Because we are adaptable. We learn. We change. We find ways to win that our enemies never expect." He pointed at her. "You have been trying to become something you are not. Instead, you should become what you are. Only better." Yuna was silent for a moment. Then she asked the question Do-hyun had been waiting for. "Can you teach me?" Do-hyun studied her face. He looked for doubt. He looked for fear. He looked for the weakness that would make her give up when things got truly hard. He found none of these things. Instead, he saw something he recognized. Something he had seen in his own reflection many years ago. The look of someone who had already survived things that should have killed them. The look of someone who would rather die than quit. "Training starts tomorrow," he said. 0400 hours. This bay. Tell no one." "Yes, sir," Yuna said. Do-hyun turned to leave. At the door, he stopped. "One more thing," he said without turning around. "In my training, there is no failure. There is only learning. You will fall many times. You will hurt. You will want to stop. But you will not fail as long as you keep getting up. I understand, sir. No, Do-yoon said. You do not. Not yet. But you will. He walked out of the training bay and disappeared into the dark corridor. Yuna stood alone in the empty room. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking. An Apex had noticed her. An Apex wanted to train her. This was impossible. This did not happen to cadets like her. Cadets who were small. Cadets who were weak. Cadets who were jokes. She looked at the training dummy lying against the wall. She walked over and tried to lift it back into place. It was heavy. Her arms burned, but she lifted it anyway. Then she went back to her room. She set her alarm for 0330. That would give her time to warm up before the training dot. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know if she could handle whatever the Apex would throw at her. But she knew one thing for her. Certain dot she would not quit. She would get up every time she felt that she would keep going until there was nothing left of her dot, because that was what it meant to be human dot. And tomorrow she would start learning what it meant to be dangerous. The first lesson was pain. Do-hyun threw Yuna across the training bay like she weighed nothing. She hit the mat hard. The air left her lungs. Stars danced in her eyes. Get up, Do-hyun said. While Yuna got up, he threw her again. This time, she hit the wall. Her shoulders screamed in pain. Get up. She got up. For 2 hours, Do-hyun threw her. He swept her legs. He pushed her down. He grabbed her arm and flipped her through the air. Yuna lost count of how many times she hit the ground, but she got up every single time. Finally, Do-hyun stopped. He was not even breathing hard. Yuna was covered in bruises and could barely stand. Good, he said. Same time tomorrow. Then he left. Yuna stood alone in the training bay. Her body hurt everywhere. She wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. She wanted to ask what the point of all that was, but she did not. She went back to her room. She took a hot shower. She treated her bruises with medical gel. She slept for 4 hours. Then she went to her regular classes. She did her regular training. She failed her regular tests. And the next morning at 0400, she was back in the training bay. This went on for 3 weeks. Every morning, Do-hyun would hurt her in new ways. He would attack from angles she did not expect. He would use techniques she had never seen. He would push her body to its absolute limit. And every morning, Yuna would get up. On the 4th week, something changed. Do-hyun attacked. Yuna moved. His hand passed through empty air. They both froze. Again, Do-hyun said. There was something new in his voice. Interest. He attacked again. Faster this time. Yuna moved again. She did not dodge completely. His fist brushed her shoulder. But she was not thrown across the room. Good, Do-hyun said. Your body is learning. Now your mind needs to learn too. He sat down on the floor. Yuna sat across from him, confused. Fighting is not about strength, Do-hyun said. Fighting is about understanding. Understanding your enemy. Understanding yourself. Understanding the space between you. He held up his hand. A Veth is strong, but a Veth is also slow to turn. Their armor is thick on their chest, but thin under their arms. They expect enemies to attack from the front because that is how they attack. He pointed at Yuna. You are small. This means you can move under their guard. You can attack the places they do not protect. You can be behind them before they know you have moved. Yuna listened carefully. She remembered every word. A Quarren has 4 arms. This seems like an advantage. But 4 arms means 4 targets. Their joints are weak. Break 1 arm, and their balance is ruined. Break 2, and they cannot fight at all. Do-hyun stood up. Every species has weaknesses. Every enemy has blind spots. Your job is not to be stronger than them. Your job is to find these weaknesses and use them. He walked to a control panel and pressed some buttons. Holographic enemies appeared around them. A Veth, a Quarren, a Dravok. Watch, Do-Hyun said. He moved like water, like shadow, like death. The holographic Veth swung at him. Do-Hyun was not there. He was behind it. His hand touched a spot under its arm. The hologram flickered and fell. The Quarren attacked with all four arms. Do-Hyun grabbed one wrist, twisted, and the hologram screamed. 2 more quick strikes and it was done. The Dravok was fast. Its tail whipped toward Do-Hyun's head. He ducked under it, grabbed the tail, and pulled. The hologram lost its balance. Do-Hyun's knee hit its throat. It fell and did not get up. 3 enemies. 3 seconds. Now you, Do-Hyun said. Yuna stepped forward. Her heart was pounding. The holograms reset. She tried to move like Do-Hyun had. She was too slow. The Veth hit her and she flew backward. Again, Do-Hyun said. She tried again. This time she dodged the first attack. But the Quarren caught her with 3 arms. Again. She tried again. And again. And again. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Slowly Yuna began to change. Her movements became faster. Her reactions became sharper. She learned to read body language. She learned to predict attacks before they came. She learned the weak points of every species in the academy. But more than that, she learned something else. She learned that being small was not a weakness. It was a weapon. One night, after a long training session, Yuna finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. Why are you helping me? Do-Hyun was quiet for a long time. When I was a cadet, he said finally, I was alone. I was the only human. Every day, the other species reminded me that I was prey, that I was weak, that I did not belong. He looked at Yuna directly. One day, I decided I would never feel that way again. I became something they could not ignore, something they feared. His eyes were dark and deep. But fear is lonely. Power is lonely. I became the thing I needed to survive, but I lost something along the way. He pointed at Yuna. You have the same fire I had, the same refusal to die. But you are not hard yet. You are not cruel yet. He paused. I want to help you become strong without losing yourself. I want to give you what no one gave me. Yuna did not know what to say, so she simply bowed her head. Thank you, she said quietly. Do-Hyun nodded once. Then his expression changed. The moment of softness was gone. The apex was back. Enough talking. Again. Yuna smiled and raised her fists. As the weeks passed, other things began to change too. The cadets who mocked Yuna started having problems. A Veth, who had pushed her in the hallway, found himself assigned to clean waste recycling tanks for a month. A Quarren who had laughed at her during training was suddenly transferred to the hardest physical regimen. No one could prove that Do-Hyun was responsible, but everyone noticed that the small human cadet was no longer being bothered. Some cadets began to whisper, why would an apex care about the weakest cadet in the academy? What was so special about her? Yuna heard the whispers. She did not care. She was too busy training, too busy learning, too busy becoming something new. Every morning, she rose before dawn. Every night, she studied until her eyes burned. Every day, she grew a little stronger, a little faster, a little more dangerous. She was still the smallest cadet in the academy, but she was no longer the weakest. And soon, everyone would know it. The announcement came on a cold morning. All cadets were called to the main hall. Commander Torvac stood on the stage, his scarred face showing no emotion. The trial of the hunt will begin in 3 days, he said. 50 cadets have been selected. Only those who complete the trial will graduate. He pressed a button. Names appeared on the giant screen behind him. Yuna saw her name on the list. The room went quiet. Then the whispers started. The small human? In the trial? She will not last 1 hour. This must be a joke. Yuna kept her face calm. She did not react to the whispers. She had learned to ignore them long ago. The trial of the hunt was legendary. 50 cadets were dropped on an unknown planet with almost nothing. For 7 days, they had to survive while being hunted by advanced combat drones. The drones were fast. They were smart. They were deadly. The goal was simple. Reach the extraction point alive. The survival rate was around 60%. That meant 20 cadets would fail. Some would be killed by drones. Some would give up. Some would be too hurt to continue. Everyone expected Yuna to be among the first to fall. A tall Quarren approached her after the meeting. His name was Riss. He had 4 arms and a proud way of standing. He looked down at Yuna like she was an insect. "Listen to me carefully, human," he said. "Withdraw from the trial. Save yourself the shame. You will be eliminated in the first hour. Everyone knows it." Yuna looked up at him. She remembered everything Do-hyun had taught her. She saw the weak spots in Riss's posture. She saw where his joints were vulnerable. She knew exactly how she could hurt him, but she did not show any of this on her face. Instead, she smiled. It was a strange smile. Cold, calm, knowing. "Thank you for your concern," she said politely. "I will keep it in mind." Then she walked away, leaving Riss confused and unsettled. 3 days later, the 50 cadets stood in the shuttle bay. Do-hyun was there, standing with the other instructors. He did not look at Yuna. He did not give her any special attention. But as she walked past him to board the shuttle, she heard his voice. "Remember what you are." That was all. Then she was on the shuttle, surrounded by cadets who expected her to fail. The planet was called Nexus 7. It was covered in thick forest and rocky mountains. The air was breathable but heavy. The gravity was slightly higher than standard. Yuna smiled when she felt the gravity. She had grown up on a planet with much heavier gravity. This was nothing. The 50 cadets were dropped at different points around the planet. Each had only basic supplies. A knife, a water filter, a thin blanket. No weapons. No communication devices. No maps. Survival was up to them. Yuna landed in a dense part of the forest. The trees were tall and dark. Strange sounds came from every direction. She could not see the sky through the thick leaves. Most cadets would try to move quickly. They would try to find other cadets for safety. They would try to reach the extraction point as fast as possible. Yuna did none of these things. Instead, she climbed a tree. She sat on a high branch and watched. She listened. She learned. For 2 days, she did not move. She watched the drones fly past below her. She studied their patterns. She memorized their routes. She noticed that they scanned in a certain way. They had blind spots. They did not look up very often. She saw cadets running through the forest. Most were caught within hours. The drones were fast and efficient, but they were also predictable. On the 3rd day, Yuna started moving. She moved slowly, carefully. She stayed in the shadows. She climbed trees and moved from branch to branch. When drones came near, she went completely still. They passed right beneath her without noticing. On the 4th day, she heard fighting. She climbed to a high point and looked down into a canyon. 7 cadets were trapped there. Riss was among them. They were surrounded by a pack of hunter drones. Their weapons were empty. Their communication devices were jammed. The drones were closing in for the kill. Most people would have stayed hidden. Most people would have decided it was not their problem. The smart thing was to leave them and keep moving. Yuna did not do the smart thing. She had spent 3 days studying the drones. She knew their weak points. She knew their blind spots. She knew exactly where to hit them. She made a spear from a long branch and a sharp rock. It was simple. It was rough, but it would work. Then she attacked. The first drone never saw her coming. She dropped from above and drove her spear into its sensor cluster. It fell and did not get up. The second drone turned toward her. Too slow. She was already moving. Her spear hit the joint between its head and body. Sparks flew. It crashed to the ground. The third and fourth drones attacked together. Yuna rolled between them. They collided with each other. She struck twice, fast and precise. 2 more drones down. The fifth drone was smarter. It kept its distance and fired at her. Yuna used a fallen drone as a shield. She threw her spear like a javelin. It hit the drone's main sensor. Direct hit. The sixth drone flew at her. She grabbed a rock from the ground and threw it into the air. The drone tracked the rock. For half a second, it was distracted. That was all Yuna needed. She jumped, grabbed its body, and tore out its power core with her bare hands. Silence fell over the canyon. 6 drones lay destroyed on the ground. Yuna stood among them, breathing hard. Her hands were cut from the sharp metal. Her body was tired, but she was alive. The 7 cadets stared at her. Their mouths hung open. They could not believe what they had just seen. Riss looked at her with completely new eyes. This was not the weak, small human he had mocked. This was something else. Something dangerous. How? He started to ask. The extraction point is 12 kilometers north, Yuna said calmly. She picked up her spear. We can make it if we leave now. Stay close and move quietly. Do what I say. No one argued. Riss, who had told her to withdraw from the trial, fell in line behind her without a word. For the next 3 days, Yuna led the group through the forest. She found safe paths. She avoided drone patrols. She showed them which plants were safe to eat and which water was safe to drink. When drones found them, Yuna fought. The other cadets tried to help, but she was faster, more precise. She took down drone after drone with nothing but her spear and her knowledge. On the 7th day, they reached the extraction point. 20-3 cadets made it to the end. Out of 50, less than half survived, but every single member of Yuna's group was among them. As the shuttle took them back to the station, Riss sat next to Yuna. He was quiet for a long time. I was wrong about you, he finally said. Yuna looked at him. Yes, you were. You saved my life. You saved all of us. Yes, I did. Riss did not know what else to say, so he simply nodded and looked away. Yuna leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes. She had proven herself. She had survived. She had saved others. But she knew the hardest part was still to come. She had to face the academy. She had to face Commander Torvax. She had to show everyone that she belonged, and she was ready. The graduation ceremony was held in the Great Hall of the Academy. It was the biggest room on Station Helix 7. The ceiling was so high it seemed to touch the stars. Thousands of lights floated in the air like tiny moons. Hundreds of seats were filled with officers, diplomats, and family members from across the galaxy. In the front row stood the 23 survivors of the trial of the hunt. Yuna was among them. But she was not in the back, hidden by taller bodies. She was in the front, where the top performer stood. Her final trial score had been the highest in the class. Commander Torvax walked onto the stage. His old scales caught the light. His yellow eyes looked over the survivors with something that might have been respect. You have survived the trial of the hunt, he said. His voice filled the great hall. You have proven that you are worthy of serving in the Galactic Fleet. You are no longer cadets. You are soldiers." He began calling names. One by one, cadets walked up to receive their graduation pins. A Veth warrior, a Koran diplomat, a Dravik fighter. Each one bowed their head as Torvax pinned the symbol to their uniform. Then he called her name, Cadet Yuna. The hall went quiet. Yuna walked forward. Her steps were steady. Her head was high. She looked small among the tall aliens around her. But she did not look weak. She climbed the steps to the stage. Commander Torvax looked down at her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "When you first came to this academy," Torvax said, "I told you that you did not belong here. I told you that you were too small, too weak." Yuna met his eyes. "Yes, sir. You did. I was wrong." The words hung in the air. Commander Torvax had never admitted being wrong about anything. The officers in the audience shifted in their seats. "You have shown us something important," Torvax continued. "You have reminded us why humans are feared across the galaxy. It is not because of your strength. It is not because of your weapons. It is because you refuse to stop. You refuse to die. You refuse to accept what others tell you that you are." He picked up the graduation pin. It was small and silver, shaped like a star. "You are a credit to your species, Cadet Yuna. No, not Cadet anymore." He pinned the star to her uniform. "Officer Yuna." Yuna saluted. "Thank you, sir." Torvax leaned closer. His voice dropped so only she could hear. "Someone has been watching over you," he said. "Someone powerful. I do not know what you did to earn his protection, but I know that you have earned your place here by your own strength." He stepped back. "Go. Make us proud." Yuna walked off the stage. The audience was quiet at first. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. Then another. Then another dot by the time Yuna returned to her place among the graduates. The entire hall was applauding. She looked up at the observation balcony above the stage. A figure stood there in the shadows. Tall, broad. Watching Dot do Hyan Dot, he did not clap. He did not wave. He simply stood there, arms crossed, looking down at her Dot, then, slowly, he nodded his head. Just once. Yuna returned the gesture with a proper salute. Beside Do-hyun, another figure stood. A woman in a high-ranking uniform. Admiral Park Ji-hae. She was the highest-ranking human in the entire galactic fleet. Her eyes were sharp and knowing. "You put a lot of effort into that one," Ji-hae said quietly. "Some might call it favoritism." Do-hyun did not look at her. Some would be wrong. And the protection? The cadets who suddenly got bad assignments after bothering her? The Veth who ended up cleaning toilets for a month? "I have no idea what you mean, Admiral." Ji-hae smiled slightly. "Of course you do not." She looked down at Yuna, who was now surrounded by other graduates. Species that had once laughed at her were now asking her questions, wanting to know her secrets, treating her with respect. "She has potential," Ji-hae said. "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "She does. What will you do now? Keep watching over her?" Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. "She does not need me anymore," he said finally. She never really did. She just needed someone to show her what she already was. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the balcony. Below, the ceremony ended. Music played. Food was served. Graduates celebrated with their families and friends. Yuna stood by a window, looking out at the stars. She had no family to celebrate with, no old friends to share this moment. But she did not feel sad. She felt free. A presence appeared beside her. She turned and saw Riss, the tall Koran who had told her to withdraw from the trial. "I owe you my life," he said simply. "I will not forget it." "You owe me nothing," Yuna replied. "We are both soldiers now. We help each other." That is what soldiers do. Rhys was quiet for a moment. Then he extended one of his 4 hands. Friends? He asked. Yuna looked at his hand. Then she smiled and took it. Friends? Other graduates came to join them. Veth, warriors. Quarren, diplomats. Dravik, fighters. Species that had never spoken to Yuna before now wanted to stand beside her. She had entered the academy as the smallest cadet. The joke. The one everyone expected to fail. She was leaving as a leader. Years passed. Officer. Yuna became Commander Yuna. Then General Yuna. She led missions across the galaxy. She saved colonies from raiders. She protected civilian ships from pirates. She trained new soldiers and taught them what it meant to be human. Her training methods were famous. They were hard. They were painful. But they worked. Every human soldier who trained under her became stronger, better, more dangerous, and every one of them learned the same lesson she had learned long ago. We do not win by being the strongest, she would tell them. We win by refusing to stop. We win by getting up every time we fall. We win by being what we are, not what others want us to be. She never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the small mining colony where she had lost her family. She never forgot the 40 kilometers she had walked through poison air. And she never forgot the man who had believed in her when no one else did. Once a year, on the anniversary of her graduation, a message would arrive on her private channel. It was always short, always simple, still rising, good. She never replied. She did not need to. Dahyun knew. She was still the smallest officer in the fleet. Her body was still thin. Her frame was still light, but no one laughed at her anymore. No one called her weak. No one questioned whether she belonged, because they all knew the truth now. The truth that humans had always known. Size did not matter. Strength did not matter. Claws and fangs and armor did not matter. What mattered was will. What mattered was refusing to give up. What mattered was getting up. Again and again, until there was nothing left. And humans were very good at getting up. Yun looked out at the stars from the bridge of her ship. Thousands of lights in the darkness. Thousands of worlds. Thousands of possibilities. She smiled. She was still rising, and she would never stop.